So tonight, I'm thrilled to have Renee Byer and Ron Levine. Ron's an old friend of mine, and we've did business together. I was his rep for many years, um, and that turned out to be a great relationship, and we remain friends, even though we we had that relationship. So I'm thrilled to have him. I want to thank Photo Daily, Photo Shelter, Epson, and American Photography for helping us out all the time. I ask anyone who's new to please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Jay will put that address in the chat room. And Renee's going to go second, and we're going to start with Ron Levine. So Ron, share your screen, and off we go.
Let's see if this works. Okay, content only. Keynote projections, share.
There
Is
you
that
go.
working?
Yep, you're good. You just got to
Beautiful.
go
All
full
right.
screen now, Ron.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Play. All right. Continue to share. All right. That's kosher. It's good.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, beautiful. So, I'm going to start with this project called Prisoners of Age. Kind of became an obsession of mine. It started in 1996, but I'm going to go a few years back and just show you what I was doing before that. I'm not going to go into any commercial work, um, but I'm going to show you some work. What I want to do is in 1992, I wanted to change my lighting style. I was done with too much. I hated carrying around so much lighting. So I took one light, my Hasselblad equipment, and I went down to the deep south from Montreal, where I live. And I decided to shoot people who make their living along the back roads, just me and my assistant. So we'd stop whenever there was something interesting. Okay, why isn't this continuing? Ah, I see. Oh boy, it's gonna be interesting. So I'll just run you through some of these shots fast. Like I said, we'd stop. We were stuck in Hurricane Andrew at one point in Louisiana, and we photographed a bunch of folks. And we do short interviews, talk to them a little while, and then ask them if they'd be willing to be photographed. And then I continued in 93 in the summer. And then 94, I got a grant from the Canadian government to photograph the same thing in the maritime provinces, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and Prince Edward Island. In 95, I went to Poland using a 4x5. I was shooting, I had some exhibitions there in different cities in Poland. And I decided to set up the camera, the 4x5 camera, in the middle of the town of Wrocław and photograph just the locals. And the great thing was I gave them the Polaroid, the positive, and I kept the negative, and that's how I printed these shots. In 1995, end of 95, I had a contract to shoot for Air Canada's in-flight magazine, Alligator Hunters and Wrestlers in Florida. And so we shot that, also the one light idea. So, all this to say, I use this in beginning of 96. I was sitting in a snowstorm in Montreal. Car was stuck, of course, and I heard this radio documentary on the first geriatric prison in North America, Northwest Alabama. And I was so captivated by the voices. Um, I thought I pulled the car to the side during the snowstorm. I listened to the 15 minutes of the show, and I've got one piece here. Will this will this work? No. What's happening?
How does it make you feel, the thought of getting out?
Oh, it's an energizer. It is.
It's an energizer.
You know that you'll be free again. I don't have a place to go, but I don't give up. I I I feel I can make it.
And it was that voice that just grabbed my attention. And I thought, okay, I can get into this prison somehow and photograph the men in the prison if possible. So I called the producer. I
Oh, wait,
figured I
wait,
can
Ron,
add. Yeah,
Ron. Yeah.
yeah.
So what, I mean, what of that piece got you to say, I'm going to go to these prisons and photograph these people? I mean, that's so out of what you were doing, right? And now
Wasn't
you're
it?
dealing and explain a little bit of the logistics of how do you get into a prison
That
to do
that's was
portrait,
that was my thought too when I first heard this piece. I ended up, there. I don't even think I had a cell phone at that point. I called the producer of the show, and she gave me the number of the warden, and I spoke to the warden, and
right
I
away?
kind of talked him into letting me in. I sent him a bunch of photographs FedEx. He looked at them. I called him back a week later and he says, well, I got to call Montgomery. And I was thinking, who the hell's Montgomery? But obviously, it's the capital of Alabama.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, good Canadian knowledge. And so, but he eventually said, okay, you can come down for 5 days. You have to pay for a guard to walk you around. So I said, fine. And once you're in the first of these prisons, it's much easier to get into the rest.
Right.
But what got me in was what I wanted to do is I thought I could just add some images from this prison, these portraits of these men, the voices that I heard on the radio piece. I could add it to my series of shots from the Deep South that I started in '92. So we get to the prison. Oh, so what I did was actually, as soon as I got off the phone with the warden, I called my friend Michael Wu, who's a graphic designer who worked on other projects before. And I said, Mike, you want to go to prison? He goes, yeah, sure, without asking a question. And eventually I told him the who, what, when, where, and why. And he came down. We went down about 2 months later.
But Ron, this was something totally outside of your comfort zone,
Oh, yeah.
from what you were doing. So like apprehension, intrigue, like what were the things that were going through your head as you're going down south into these prisons? And did you have sort of the weight that we have as Americans for, oh man, these places are tough places to go to.
I didn't. I guess I was naive.
Mm,
And, it was just the first thing that popped in my mind is like going down south. All I could think of was the movie Deliverance,
right.
you know?
Right.
Uh, but once you're there, I mean, the people are quite nice in this small town, Hamilton. And once you get to the prison, I was a little worried about the prison. But then once you get in, it's basically it's an old age home that was handed over to the state in 1981. They turned into a 250 bed old age home for inmates.
Mm.
Later on, I'll tell you, I went to much rougher prisons later on, but this is the first. This started it all. So, you walk in, there's a barbed wire, the razor wire as you walk around. There's a guard towers, scary looking guard. Um, you walk in, but the first thing you see are these guys. And I kept thinking, like, okay, this is crazy. This is an old age home. So the first day we were there, we basically didn't bring a camera. We just walked around and talked to the inmates. But guys in wheelchairs, walkers, guys on oxygen tanks, and you keep wondering, what can these guys possibly do to anyone on the outside? Later on, you find out what they're in for.
And the most of the prisoners were comfortable with you photographing them, all of
Well,
that.
at first, so the first day we were there, they thought we were CIA or FBI. They had no clue. They didn't know what we were about. But the guard would say, "Hey, they're working on a photo project. Do you want to be part of it?" And at the end of the day, we had 100 signed releases. So we were ready to shoot. So the next day, we came in with the equipment and we started shooting. And when we interviewed everyone as well. But these were the faces. These were the guys. To me, it was harmless. So yeah, we go in the next day and we start shooting. And these are photos from prints or from the scans from the books.
And Ron, doing a project like this, that's such a social project, really.
Yeah.
Um, does it change you?
Uh, I ended up going back to about 22 prisons after this.
Really?
So it does change you. There's this incredible empathy, and I thought by doing this project, I can change the prison system.
Mm.
Again, a little naive. Um, and later on you'll see I gave talks about the project to the American Corrections Association, to wardens groups, to education groups, and I don't think it changed anything, unfortunately.
Right. But at some point you become an advocate, right?
Totally.
It just sort of
Yeah.
happens, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
certainly before you started, you weren't in that space. So can you talk about that sort of transition, seeing things that you see and getting into that advocate space? A lot of these
Well,
are similar to Renee's. It's the same questions.
that's right. That's true. Um,
Well, yeah.
maybe not
I'll
with
wait for
prisoners,
my
Renee.
turn.
Yeah. No, so what happens is that I guess what I did was I thought if I get these images out, the more I got it out, the more I can make people understand that this is like stockpiling the aged. What are we doing? These guys have, and what I always question, how many years do you have to stay in prison for the crime you committed? I mean, in Canada and the United States, there's two very different systems. People who, I mean, depending on the murder, of course, so murder usually like 15 to 25 years at the most in Canada. In the States, I photograph people who are in there for 50, 60 years and they're still alive, still in prison. It seemed like we were just stockpiling the elderly. And
Mm.
in California, for instance, they're paying up to $300,000 a year to keep an aged, sick person in prison. It's insane. So anyway, I'll run you through some of these from the first time we went. I could
And
tell.
where and how did this inspire you as it relates to your photography?
Well, I mean, I ended up shooting the prisons like I would shoot an annual report. Um, I would light it. I would try to give the subject dignity if I could. And I wanted them to be just like any other shoot I was doing, an advertising shoot or an annual report shoot or a magazine shoot. I want to give them the same kind of strength of character that I would any other person I photograph. So, I mean, that's how it started off. I
Mm.
didn't want to make them look like they were pathetic old men, although it comes across that way in some cases. But I mean, what really captivated me was the stories of some of these guys. They get into a fight in a bar. So many of them were they get into a fight in a bar, and they take out a gun, they take out a knife. It's drunk, access to guns, access to tools. This is a guy whose voice you heard in the
Okay.
previous segment from the documentary. This guy's Tex Johnson, and he was in 1959. He was in a Martin Luther King march in Birmingham, and he had no money to get back home to his small town. He saw some guy coming out of a bank, and he ran past him and grabbed the money. $24. Police caught him that day. He was a white man, of course. Police caught him that day, and the judge gave him 50 years in prison.
Really?
And
Wow.
it's insane. He escaped, ran away, and he made it up to Wisconsin, married a woman, lived in a native reservation up there, came down in 92 back to Alabama for his mother's funeral, and the police picked him up. And so he's been in prison since.
Really?
But
Wow.
most of these guys have passed away, obviously, since I photographed in 96, 97, 98. This is the image you had on the projections thing. And this Walker Smith he had PTSD from the Korean War and he ended up stabbing his mother 47 times. So people like these should be in sanitariums, not in prisons.
Right. And
And
how are you evolving with your photography? I mean, can you speak to that?
you mean this evolving? Well, I
Yeah, yeah,
use
like where you were as a photographer before and since.
I think what happened was this gave me again the work in the Deep South gave me the opportunity to work with one light and Hasselblad cameras. This is more with 4x5, shooting with similar lighting with 4x5 camera. It wasn't so much a lighting, but I was able to try out a lot of different kind of styles. Every prison we went to, every time we went back to another prison, I brought different camera equipment, different lighting. I just wanted to try different stuff. So I think as a photographer, I evolved and I was able to use the tools in my commercial work when I went back to New York or Montreal.
Right.
So that was the first time we went down back in December, back in March '96. So what happened was that I got the names of, I thought it was really fascinating. And I got the name, I spoke to a gentleman named Jonathan Turley. You might know him because he's a Trumpist now, but he's a professor at George Washington
Right.
University. And he was running a group called POPs, a project for older prisoners. And he was trying to get a lot of these old guys out of prison. He was using a group of Tulane lawyers, student lawyers, and they were pretty successful getting people out of prison in Louisiana. And so I called him up, and he basically gave me the name of six other prisons, geriatric prisons in the United States. So I started making phone calls. And once you've been in one, the other
Yeah.
wardens will usually let you in.
Right. And you're financing this yourself.
Yep. Well, actually, you helped me finance this, Frank, because you were my rep in New York.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
we were able to get some pretty damn good jobs
Very cool.
those years, and that helped me finance. I realized I could probably have bought one or two houses with the money I spent on this project. We got film. I mean, the thing is, we got Polaroid from Polaroid. Polaroid bought a couple of my images for their museum in Boston. I sold some images. The museum in Quebec bought a couple images. So I was able to, you know, Polaroid gave me about 40 boxes of Type 55, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So at some point it becomes what you
An
do.
obsession.
Yes, that's where I was going, where like you really
Yes.
can't stop because
No.
it's satisfying you in different places, right? The
Yeah.
moral piece, the advocate's piece, and the creative piece,
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
right?
And
As a personal project.
well, that's it. So for me, I love these personal projects. I love doing this stuff. I did the alligator hunters. We went down three or four times for that. Um, and I kept going down to the States every year to photograph in different states. But this was, I felt I had to get these images and stories of these guys out there. We didn't know how at the time, but what ended up happening was we were looking at the images once in my studio with a bunch of people, and my producer was there. She just came back from San Francisco, and she said, "Well, what about Alcatraz?" And we all laughed because Alcatraz is a national park. They never let me in. Why would they give me a show there? And she called them up, and the person who's in charge of PR at the time, back in '96 or '97, was a woman from the private sector who worked for Goodby Silverstein for a while.
That's a big
Um,
ad agency.
in New York, in San Francisco, right? And so she was running the PR section down there at Alcatraz Penitentiary. She said, "That's a great idea. We should do this." And, and I was shocked. And she wants to see some photographs. She said, "Come on down and take a look at the room we're going to give you." 6,000 square feet with the old shower room with 12-foot ceilings. You couldn't put up, 16 by 20 prints. You needed something else. So that's how we ended up shooting a lot more, and I'll show you how it was set up. So we ended up went back to the prison in Hamilton, Alabama, one more time, actually two times. In 79, 99, we went to North Carolina, we went to Ohio, and kept shooting. I tried to shoot a little differently every time, tried to get some different stories.
And were you garnishing a following run at some point?
No.
No. Okay.
That would have been nice.
No, I mean, like with the other wardens, I mean, did it get easier and easier to get in, or it was still
Yes.
tedious?
Yes, no, it was pretty after the first time in Hamilton. Once I say I was photographing in Hamilton, Alabama at this other prison, most of the wardens said no problem, come on in. They were really easy. I mean, now it might be a lot harder, but back then it was, there's like I said, no cell phones, no internet, as far as I remember. And the thing is, what I did too is not only did I give the images of the prisoners Polaroids, because I was shooting with a lot of Polaroid there. I also sent the wardens, a box of images, a box of like 8 by 10s or 11 by 14s to keep. So they were rather happy. And then, of
Yeah,
course, I told them,
yeah, I'm
sorry,
sorry. No, there's a lot of images here that I haven't seen. There's
I
wonderful.
know. Yeah, a lot were not in the book. But what happened was that at some point this is the Canadian side. At some point, we realized, like Michael, the designer, said, "Look, let's do a book." And I said, "Okay, sure, why not?" Because once we got the okay for Alcatraz, we figured, okay, we're up for a month at Alcatraz. 1.2 million people go to Alcatraz every year. We easily sell out 5,000 books. So we had 6,000 books printed, cost an arm and a leg. Um, and we incorporated, we went to start shooting Canadian prisons. And some of these are in the book. And and then we decided, so then we did the book. So Michael started designing the book. Oh, that's right. What happened was that we had decided also we had to make make it look a little different. So I started doing some platinum palladium prints for the book and cyanotypes. Thought just to add a different kind of level, different kind of look to the images in there.
Yeah, I mean, that had to be a wonderful experience from a creative side to do all these
Totally.
different things. I mean, no one
Yeah.
was telling you shoot it this way, shoot it that way. I want this,
Yeah.
right? Like you were doing everything you wanted.
Yeah, basically, I had a run of things. The only one would share ideas would be Michael and I. And then Michael, Michael's a fantastic designer. He's astounding. So any kind of job I did with him was always he always won the awards for the best design communication arts, best design of the book communication arts. All the stuff that I could not get my photos into, he got it in through his design. So it was fantastic. So then we did okay. So the book was printed up about a month and a half before the exhibition, and we thought, like I said, we thought we'd sell out the book in a matter of weeks. Um,
How
yeah,
many
I
books
know.
do you still have?
Actually, it's funny. I probably only have about 50 books left,
Is that
and
right?
I'll
Wow.
tell you why after. But these things surprise you, right?
And you sold about 10, right?
Yeah. We sold Note this first time because they kept extending the show at Alcatraz. So we were in for a month. They got so much press and so much positivity from the community and from the just the newspapers, the magazines. The Fox TV did an hour-long special bringing all these troubled teens from LA up to the show.
Scared
Um,
straight. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Scared straight. And we got people came in from the BBC, Korean television. We were on Court TV. I mean, it was fantastic. It was great press. So I figured, that's the thing. I figured the book would sell out. We had it on PayPal, so we figured it would sell out. We had a website up. We sold 1,200 in the 6 months we were there at Alcatraz. So that was a start. And here's some of the spreads for anybody who might be interested in buying a book. Only 50 left.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was great. We had the press was everywhere. We put up so the prints we ended up doing. Michael designed the prints, and I was so pissed because everything was 4 feet by 8 feet, so he had to crop into my images. You know how photographers hate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I thought he did a fantastic job with the text, the on the images, the
Wow.
photos, the books, the whole kit and caboodle. And so the thing is, once I was up at Alcatraz for the 6 months, we get a call from the Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. So we put it up there. Bravo TV came down and did a TV piece on us putting the show up. And that was great. So more press. But all this time I'm thinking this is going to get out and people, the system's going to change. The elderly will be let out. I was in touch with the Innocence Project and the Sentencing Project. And nothing much changes. It's an industry.
Right.
Um,
So, I mean, you are advancing the project in every way you can, but
yeah,
you never were able to get a politician behind you, right?
no,
So, someone to
no,
take the issue on and really
no.
confront, right? Because it's not really a sexy topic, right?
Yeah,
For a
I think it
politician.
was. I think it was toxic too for these guys. I mean, you know who's interested? It's funny that we got the second in charge. His name is Martin something or other, second in charge of Canadian corrections, and he got us great funding to put up the show here in Ottawa at the National Archives. But half an hour into my talk on the show, there was a fire alarm, so we had to evacuate on opening night. It's great. All the everything's out there against me, you know. But it was great. It was nicely set up. Although I have to say the prison museums were more interesting because the setting was fantastic, you know.
Right.
So anyway, so after this, we get another phone call. We're shooting women now in prison. We're shooting more in Canada, and we end up a phone call from Dublin, Kilmainham Prison. 1796 is built, and the guy said, we saw the show at Alcatraz. We'd like to put the show up here in Dublin in 2004. Said no problem. So we got some help from the Canadian government, the Quebec government, and we put the show up. It's stunning space.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow is right.
yeah, it was a great place for a show. Great place.
I mean, and this is a testament to your stamina to keep going, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of reasons why to stop and it's enough and, on and on and on. And,
Well,
a lot of money is being spent.
yeah, the money again, like I wasn't going to go out and like buy another house or buy a cottage or anything like that. Maybe I should have. But to me, it seemed important to get the images out and to tell the stories of these guys, whether it's a book or a show. And we had a lot of help. I mean, we had a fellow who printed all the second floor images for us for next to nothing. The Kilmainham jail paid for the shipping and all that stuff.
And you have guards. You took images of
Yes,
guards now on the back
we
end
we
there.
we had pictures of the guards. I took the guards back in Alabama, and I told them they're going to be in a show in Dublin. They were so excited. They were great. So yeah, so the show went up in Dublin, and at that time in 2004, I got a phone call from some guy who thought of what's his name? He's a filmmaker, and he said, "Hey, if I get the money together, would you be willing to do a documentary? And we'll follow you to a couple prisons." So it's like third or fourth time I heard someone tell me this. So I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So needless to say, oh yeah, we started shooting a lot more women. That's right, that time, and some of the women were incorporated into the show in Dublin. They didn't make it into the book. It was too late for the book. But this is in California, a place called Chowchilla. This is in Grand Valley in Ontario. Okay, in Grand Valley.
And Ron, you never had the idea. I mean, you always stayed with the elderly. That was really
For this, yeah,
the
well,
avenue, huh?
now here's the ticket. The elderly in the United States is 55 and up. The elderly in Canada is considered 45 and up.
Mm.
Yeah, so we had a mix. But what I did do, which I didn't incorporate into the slideshow, is we did shoot a lot of youngsters who basically took care of the elderly at these prisons. So young guys who were maybe in trouble if they went to a general population prison. Some Aryan Nations guys, um, just real youngsters, 18, 19-year-olds who could be taken advantage of. And so I photographed a lot of those guys. I'm starting to think of doing something with that, but that's further down the road. I'm thinking of going back to platinum prints, platinum palladium prints, because you could do them in the basement. You don't need a darkroom for it.
Right.
And now with digital negatives, you can print them any size you want. But the women, the sad thing about the women is, it's mostly about, being abused your entire life and then you eventually kill your husband or your abuser. And that was most of their stories. So anyway, so this guy calls me, this guy Stan Feingold, and he calls me back in 2004 and says, "Hey, we've got the money. I'm ready to do the documentary in 2 weeks." So So he said,
Wow.
let's go back down to Alabama. So I contacted the prison in Alabama. I got the okay. And I thought at the same time, it'll allow me to shoot a little more for the project in case it went anywhere else.
And Ron, do you have to get permission, like to document like what their backgrounds were in order to let that be part of your project?
No, the release forms covered everything.
You did, okay.
So that was fantastic. I read them over first and I thought it was just for the photos, but I know it was for the photos and their interview as well.
Content, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was great. So I tried to shoot a little differently. Wasn't using as much lighting. And then we did bring down some Kino flows. Do you remember Kino flows? I don't know if they have them. They're like fluorescent tubes that don't flicker.
Mm.
So we use them for some of these shots. Again, on the 4x5. I had this old Graflex Super Graphic D or Graflex D. It was a 1920 box camera, 4x5. It's fun to shoot with. And we did that. So after the documentary, I figured that's it. That's it. I'm not shooting anymore. From 2004 to 2012, I didn't shoot anything more for the project. I did more commercial work, and I just what else was I doing? I tried to think what else. I guess just more commercial work. I know my wife at the time. She said, can't you shoot kittens and babies instead? And I just
So I mean,
couldn't do it.
now I have to, so at this time I'm repping Ron,
Yes.
and we get a call from an ad agency in Connecticut, and they want to see his portfolio. So I send the portfolio, but I also send the book, and we talk to the people back and forth, and they have a brand new client, Deloitte Touche financial company, and it's brand new. And they ask me, would Ron be up for doing a test shoot? And that's like one of the things, especially for a commercial photographer, you just run the other way, because there's not going to be a lot of money and there's going to be a lot of cooks in the kitchen and on and on and on. So I said to Ron, let's do it. This week we're not busy, whatever it is. So we do it. But the reason why they like to give Ron this chance, and they didn't know what they really wanted, was that in the book, there was such a variation of lighting and styles that they felt this would be something that we could play around with. And Deloitte Touche did not want to have the classic, financial portrait shots of a guy with a tie, against, white seamless. They wanted to do different things. So we said we do the shoot, but I put in the contract that they had no usage rights. So if they like the images, they'd have to go and buy them. So Ron shoots, and and all these guys no one had any time. They were all hedge fund managers and on and on and on. So they came for their 10 minutes and out, 10 minutes and out. And lo and behold, they liked them. So now they had to buy them. And I could say for myself, there's maybe on one hand, the amount of money we made working with Deloitte Touche on this project, because it kept on going. Because if I did a
Yeah.
portrait of you, then the guy next door wanted the portrait, and the next woman wanted a portrait. All these hedge funds wanted portrait, and they had money to burn. So through this personal project, Ron, so you can't, don't be sympathetic about he's got 1,500 books. He made more money with this project, with that personal project, getting advertising work, because it generated so much interest from Deloitte Touche. It was really amazing, really an amazing project. A personal project leading to commercial success. It was great for him.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic, and that did just keep on going. I think it was over 2 years. They kept
Yeah,
calling us for different shoots, Connecticut, New York, Jersey, whatever.
yeah,
That was great. And then
yeah.
there was a Verizon project too.
Right.
That
That's
was
right.
another fun one. And
Yeah.
at Montreal, I got a call because of the book. I got a call to shoot a group of sporty girls for Imperial Tobacco, of all things. They gave
Yeah.
away cigarettes when they were allowed to give away cigarettes at sporting events. And that was a great shoot as well. So in 2000, I guess 2008 or so, I got a phone call from this woman anyway, she said, have you heard of what's it called? It was called the Fremantle Prison. I said, no, I never heard of it. Where is it? She says, it's near Perth, Australia. So we liked the show. We saw it in Dublin. Would you be willing to send it down here? Hey, Australia, fantastic. Do I get to come? She says, yes, we'll fly you down, hotel, whole deal. You'll be here for a week. And so it's an incredible prison, built in, I think, the 1890s by the inmates. The
Mm.
inmates built it and then moved into it.
Amazing.
Have you been there? Anyway, so what happened was the guy, on the opening of the show, they brought in the old superintendent, the warden of the prison for about 20 years, Ivor Knight. And
Mm.
I thought he looked so great. I asked to ask to photograph him while I was there. And the show was it was nice. It had two rooms, two large rooms, and we put up the women, the men. They put them back to back, and we ran the documentary at the same time. So it was a nice little trip. Now, soon as one side of the country hears about the show, we get a phone call from the Brisbane Powerhouse, which is a stunning place that has a giant gallery as well as restaurants. And so they wanted the show, and they put out some nice posters. This is what we got back from them. I never made it to the show, but they covered the expenses and they covered shipping it back, and I got some money from it. So little bits paid for it all. And I thought that was it. That's the end of my shooting. However, what happened was that I get a phone call. Now, all this time I'm giving talks to different conferences, yeah, American Corrections, the Department of Higher Education. I've been invited down to all these universities to talk about the project. Anyone in gerontology department at University of Omaha, Nebraska. Um, and so, all these talks, I keep thinking I'm going to change the hearts and minds of the wardens and the corrections officers. Yeah. And so what happened was that I figured they'd start letting these guys out on compassionate release or with the help of the Innocence Project. So anyway, two things happened. I get this phone call in 2012 from a woman in northern Nevada named Mary Harrison, psychologist who runs this department of elderly inmates in Carson City, at a prison in Carson City, Northern Nevada Correctional Facility. And she said, I saw your book. Would you be interested in photographing our men? And it's a group of 200 men that are over 60, and they knit for the community. They have jazz bands. It's amazing. It's a totally creative group. It's fantastic. They take care of dogs and cats. So I figured, sure, what the heck? So I was doing a shoot. This is really interesting. I was doing a shoot in San Francisco in early January 2013. And I'm doing another shoot in San Diego. And so I thought, oh, maybe I can work this out. So I called this one prison, I know about this prison, Vacaville, that had a hospice. It's the first hospice for inmates where inmates go and they die in prison, but they're taken care of by younger inmates. So I called them up, and by then I knew pretty much everyone in the industry. Called them up and asked if I'd come by and said, sure. So I spent a day there. I drove up to Carson City near Reno. We spent 2 or 3 days photographing the True Grit men. And then we drove back down to the California for Women in Chino, outside of LA, and photographed there for a day. And then I drove down to San Diego and did the shoot I was supposed to do for the commercial client.
Mm.
So in there, it's just getting, I was looking for different kind of photography, and I had never been to a hospice before, which was interesting. These are some small images. This guy was 96. He had some brain damage, but he was committed a crime beforehand. He died when we were there. He had cancer. He was a gang member. So it was frighteningly touching. But the great thing about this whole trip, we did videos and interviews with all these people at every prison. And you could see that on our YouTube channel, the Prisoners of Age YouTube channel. Just so some other shots here. And this is from Northern Nevada. I shot differently. I actually bounced a light into a silver dome lighting fixture to get a kind of a different kind of light with a reflector under their faces.
I mean, that's sort of an interesting thing to see the way you started with your lighting to where you
Yeah.
are, right? I mean, the progression from an artist standpoint is fascinating. The growth and yeah, it's
Yeah.
just wonderful.
It changed to different cameras, different lighting, different locations. And this is now we're shooting with a 5D Mark IV, Mark II, or some of that here. So it was like about 24 megapixel. The detail was incredible.
Mhm.
And these we blew up to 12 feet for the exhibition, which you'll see later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really interesting to shoot a little differently.
Mm.
Again, this is a true
Sounds like
grit.
another book has to come, Ron.
Sorry.
Another book is in the works, right?
I'll tell you, if someone would pay for it, I would do it.
We've heard that
But
story before.
I'd like to do, and you'll see it. I'd like to do this a series for the next project I'm doing, is Afterlife, which is you'll see the project after this. Photographs of people who come out of prison after a life sentence,
Right.
and that's what I've been doing for the past 5 years.
Right. All right, so we have to move. So
Yes, I'll move
time.
fast.
Okay.
Da, da, da. These are women. These are more women. And then the last stop, I met the warden from Alcatraz. I met the Angola prison warden, and I thought, oh, I have to shoot at Angola.
Right.
And he was great. He said, well, I showed him the book at a corrections convention, and he said, hey, how come you haven't shot at Angola? I said, well, let me in. So he does that. He made it work out. So we shot,
Wait, what kind of
and
convention was that, Ron?
it was the American Correctional Association, mainly wardens and corrections officers, sheriff's departments, things like that.
Wow.
And
They
they
have a
have them around the
convention for
country twice a
everybody.
year. They got it for everybody twice a year. They weren't too crazy about hearing about this project because for them, they want
Wow.
to keep people in prison.
Yeah.
But he was great. In fact, the warden there, Burl Kane, a short little guy in Louisiana, he actually signed all these release forms and parole forms, but the governor never refused to sign them.
Mm.
And we were there for a funeral. They have three cemeteries there. Moving on. So this is Alcatraz's final show. I'll just run through this real fast. We thought we'd use the old show to hang up, but you can't. It was dwarfed by the space.
Mm.
And Ai Weiwei had a show there. So we this is the first print we did. It's 12 by 8 feet on vinyl, test prints. Brought it down. This is in 2015, 16. They gave us a year there. And we put the show up in 16,000 square feet. It's fantastic show. It's great. They kept it up for a year. It was awesome. Sold another 1,200 books, Frank.
There you go.
So I had actually, when this show was done, I only had 500 books left out of 6,000.
Wow.
So I'll show you what happened after that. So after that, Kingston Penitentiary, which is actually older than Alcatraz, put the show up in 2020, in 2023. So that's recent. And then what I ended up doing, they put both shows up together, the small and the larger one, and I ended up donating the entire show to them. So they
Great.
own the show now, and that is it. I'll run through this fast. This is a project I just started about 5 years ago. Photographing, I was working for Five Keys, and I taught at some of the vocational high schools in Los Angeles. Something called Photo Voice. This is my first graduating class. I go down there for 2 to 3 weeks, teach a few different locations for the sheriff's department, and came back to Montreal. Through that, I met
Your
all these
sound is your
halfway
sound is a little bit wacky there
homes.
for a second, Ron.
And so I'll just show you the images.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh, the connection is unstable, it
No,
tells me.
now it's good. Now
Okay,
you're
can you hear
good.
me?
Yep,
Okay,
now you're good.
I'll go slower. So what happens? I decided to go without lighting for this. I just shot in shadows or indoors. Um, but these guys are stories. These are all guys. These are all people who've been in prison for more than 30, mainly 30, 40 years. He was in. Well, she was in for 42. He was in for 25. He was in for 38 years of a 62-year sentence. The stories are amazing, and most of them are on the Afterlife Project.net website. And these are all people who are basically living in halfway homes or nearby, just out of prison within the last 6 months, mainly in California.
Right. Okay.
So this is the new project. Much more interesting stories. The stories are what drive this. It's just as incredible stories. So this would be a good book. This would be a great book. And one day I'd love to do it. But we printed up a workbook, and this is the cover of it to be used now. It's being used in schools. There's prompts, there are questions for classrooms. There are links. So there's all kinds of stuff for classes, for social work classes, humanities classes, interviews with all these folks. And that's a website. I'll rush through it. The Prison of Age YouTube channel, my
Yep.
connection, and that's the two things. So sorry I ran through. I probably ran
Yeah.
over it by a bit.
Always.
Always. I
Yeah.
can't shut up.
Put all that information in your in the chat room.
I will.
Your and stick around because I'm sure we'll have some questions at the end if you can, Ron.
I will for sure. Thanks,
Great.
Frank.
So of course Ron ran late and what a surprise that is.
Hey,
Um,
hey.
hey, so now we'll go right into Renee, our Pulitzer Prize winner, who is gracious enough to present with us. So we cannot be happier. Ron, you got to stop sharing.
Oh,
Um,
sorry.
um,
Da, da, da.
Renee, it's all yours. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hang on one second. Let me share and figure this out.
You too, huh?
Oh, this
Okay,
is
let me
not
turn
No,
my
this
you're
on.
good,
this
Renee.
is not
You're
my
good.
forte, but we'll do our best.
Yeah,
Thanks for
Jay will
having
guide us.
me. I am very
There
happy
you
to be
go.
here. Let's get rid of that. That's got to go, right?
Yeah.
So I hit play, right? And then I move this up. And one more thing. Amy Gaskin taught me all this earlier today. Thank you, Amy.
If you had Amy in your corner, then you're all right.
Yeah. And now we need to go to view. Hang on. Oh, we got to hit on this.
You got this. Go to
Second, I got it.
you
All
got it.
right.
Okay.
Here we
Done.
are.
Boom. All right.
Okay.
Ms. Byer, let's go. Yeah, tell us everything, dear.
This is me in 1976. High school. I started
Wow.
my photojournalism career working for my yearbook in upstate New York in the Hudson Valley. And
Where, Renee?
this was an assignment to take a self-portrait. I was very fortunate because they supplied us cameras, they had a dark room, and it was, just a public school. And they
And
said,
Renee, where upstate, Renee?
it was in near well, actually it was in Stone Ridge, New York, which is near Woodstock, New York,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
Close to Woodstock, Kingston.
Yeah.
I was in Rosendale. So anyway, just to let you know that I began very young, and my father had a dark room in the Bronx, and that's where I first was enchanted, I would say, by watching the pictures come up and in the chemicals, and he had it in our bathroom. Was like, what is he doing in the bathroom all the time? So I went to college and then I got this internship. I studied art photography, but then in my last year of college, I discovered photojournalism on this internship at the Peoria Journal-Star. And I showed this picture because, sometimes you have to get over your fear. And I was out and they wanted me to just go shoot a weather picture, just go find something. And, I was driving down the street and this is way back, this is like you had to like focus your own camera. There was no motor drive. You're like, click, and you don't know if you got a thing. So I'm sitting in my car and I'm thinking, oh my God, Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds. I don't even want to get out of my car to shoot this image, but it's happening so fast. I have to do this. And this is the full perfect frame, there was nothing cropped, nothing. And so anyway, I just say, if I had hesitated, I mean, these are gracklings, blackbirds, they would have gone. So this was like an instant,
So, Renee, you take this photograph at a very young age.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that this is an incredible photograph, right? I mean, this is beyond, it's really special.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and this is way back when we had mobile phones, mobile radios in the car, and I'm calling, Byer to base. I just shot 1 million birds, and they're like, yeah, okay, bring it in, honey. Yeah, right. And also, it was really interesting too because then later, Fred Woodward of Rolling Stone magazine, he did this book of days, and he chose this picture to be in there. So that was really cool.
Wow. Wow.
And next, okay, how do we go forward? It's not going forward. Oh, okay, just click on it. Okay, so again, another assignment to shoot a lion cub, and I wind up being the picture in like the other guy's newspaper. Obviously, I'm not going to be a wildlife photographer, but anyway, I just put this in because this is like the last place you want to be when you're supposed to be the photographer, right? Be like the picture. So another one about sort of confronting my fear is I worked on a staff of like 7 in Peoria, and I was just like the new kid on the block. And I actually didn't know much about football at all because my brothers all played soccer. My brother wound up being a pro soccer player for a little bit. And so our whole family was soccer, nothing football. I barely even watched it. So they're like, okay, we want you to go to the Chicago Bears game because Walter Payton is going to break a record, a rushing record, and we want you to photograph him. And I'm like, can I give this assignment to someone else? I was begging everyone else on the staff, take this assignment. I'm like, what's his name? What's his number? So I write the number 34 on my hand. And I go to Soldier Stadium. And I'm like, okay, well, at least I see the AP photographer and the Chicago Sun-Times, and I knew the photographer, so I knew I'm just gonna do whatever they do. Wherever they point their camera, I'm gonna point my camera, and hopefully I'll get lucky, right? Well, this guy was such a great athlete. I couldn't have, and this is way back when, you got the 300, you have to, again, no autofocus, no motor drive, no nothing. I'm just like click, click, click. So anyway, wound up doing this beautiful photo story, and then I'm sent to the camp to cover them. So I get to the camp, and then all of a sudden, from behind, Walter Payton comes up behind me and lifts me up in the air. And again, now I'm the subject. I'm like, oh God, you got to be kidding me. He plops me down. I'm like, oh my God. And I say, I shot you breaking Brown's record. He's like, well, why don't you send it to me? And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, how am I going to send it to him? But I'll tell you, I learned a huge lesson that day because I watched him. And I watched him when all the other players went in and he ran that extra lap. And I thought, that's how you become really good at something. You have to go the extra mile. So I learned a lesson very young, very early about what it takes to like really be good at something. And, we all get these opportunities to photograph the rich and famous or whatever, but I got sent to photograph Jamie Lee Curtis. She had just got done with Halloween, and she was known as more like the Queen of Screams. And I got there and they said, no pictures. And I was like, looking like I was going to cry, frankly, because I'd been sent on this assignment, like this big assignment for like one of the first movie star assignments of my career. And Jamie looks over at me and she goes, what's the matter, honey? And I said, your publisher said no pictures. He goes, you can take pictures, what do you need? And I have a whole bunch of pictures. This is just the one that I really love. And just recently this year, she actually wrote, I posted this on Instagram, and she actually wrote, she said, I remember you. How great. Thank you. And this is like,
There you go.
what? Long, long time ago, like 1984, 35, somewhere in there. So that was really cool. And
Very
then just a lesson about, I've shot a lot of black and white, and this is a personal picture that I took in Ireland. This was my first visit to my great grandmother's property there. And my husband and I were both there. My husband's also a photographer, Paul Kitagaki Jr. And, a lot of times he has the the camera, the real cameras I call them, and I'm with my iPhone. But this time, for some reason, I got some kind of premonition, bring your phone, bring your real camera, right? And then I'm shooting this scene, and all of a sudden, this horse comes out of nowhere. This incredible, magical horse. It was like such a spiritual, a moment. And my husband always says, I wasn't getting in her way. So I've done a lot of projects throughout my career. I've been doing this, like I said, since the early 80s. And a lot of my work you can find on Zuma Press. It's, from poverty to environmental to all kinds of social documentary work. I'm going to show some of that. But also, none of these pictures are actually portraits. So everything is a found moment, and literally every image. So this was an assignment. I was working for the Holyoke Transcript Telegram. It's a little paper that doesn't even exist anymore. And the assignment was to photograph this heroine mom, but she didn't want to be photographed. And she just happened to be sitting with her child on her lap. And so this wound up being the cover image of her with her scars from the heroin and this baby's face. But
it's interesting, Renee, working for all these different publications, small and big, like you're still out there doing important work. It doesn't matter that it's the Washington Post or the, Sacramento Bee, right? I mean,
here's
a
something I'm going to tell.
photojournalist does it.
I love that. And here's a great story about Eddie Adams. So, and we'll get to that later, how I met him. But Eddie Adams basically had told me this story and said, Renee, and because I was working at the Peoria paper, and there were 7, and it's a mid-sized daily. It's not a bad-sized paper, but he's like, if I wanted to move back to the East Coast, he says, if you want to move back to the East Coast, you have to just take any place. Just go to a small newspaper. You'll get noticed and you'll be able to go somewhere. But if you go to a small newspaper, you're going to get better assignments and you're going to be able to shoot a lot more stuff. And he really gave me some great advice. And I have lots of funny stories about him, but we'll save those for another time. But yeah, that was a really good. So again, like I said, I'm making pictures. This was in Salem, Oregon when I worked for that newspaper. And again, another found moment, low income housing. This little girl I turn around and there's the picture, and thinking outside the box, and just, a mundane assignment about a book fair turns into this really incredible little moment of this kid walking down the aisle.
How many different small publications did you work for?
Well, I didn't work for, some were bigger, some were smaller. The Hartford Courant, where I met Paula Bronson, I was an editor there. So my career has been sort of an organic path of shooting and editing, both. So I've edited at 3 newspapers. I was the assistant director of photography at the Oregonian. I've been 8 different newspapers. This is my 8th one. Yeah. Wow. So this is also back in that Massachusetts where we're just hunting for feature pictures, and I find this moment inside.
Right.
Hilarious. And then again, I'm sent for I work for the Seattle PI as well, and I'm getting drenched, and I finally step inside a coffee shop, and I'm like, oh, right through the glass, there's the picture, And so just about layering and how important layering is, and sometimes the picture isn't as obvious as you might think. Trying to tell the news with a weather photo. This is like the what was this one? I can't even remember. It was the cold moon over Puget Sound. Just makes a beautiful image. Till even when I was traveling or in between assignments, and you'll see when we get into my book project that I traveled all over the world, to 4 continents and 10 countries for that. But in between, I'd stopped in London to see my nieces, and this beautiful exhibit at the Tate Museum made this, because they say the Britons are obsessed with the weather. I don't know if you saw this, but so this made it a really nice image. And up in Canada, I got to go and photograph for the Syracuse papers, which I also was an assistant director of photography, Princess Diana. And only 6 people were allowed in this room. So again, here I am from the Syracuse newspapers, this mid-sized paper, but I have a lot of determination, and I had studied the booklet, I'd studied where she was going to be, and I had requested, I want to be in this small room. And I love this little girl and how shy she is, and she can't even look up at Princess Diana.
Mm.
To some more serious journalism, to like this family who also in Salem, who had she had lost her arm in an accident, and this was about her being paid as a caretaker for her disabled husband, and then just hanging out with them all day, and then finally they start to have lunch, and they get into this little prayer, and it was just such a precious moment. And then I'm always trying to put myself in other people's shoes. And the reason I have this picture, and I shot this picture as part of my book in Romania, is, when I was a little girl and we were living in the Bronx, and we'd go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I'd look at all these Impressionist paintings, and I sort of imagine myself in these images. And whenever I'm trying to make an image, I'm always trying to think about, how do I make an image that can invite people inside so they feel like they're actually there? And so this beautiful moment, they were living in squalor, basically. But this moment of this little girl, again, not a portrait, just a found moment. I just turned, and there it was.
So Renee, like, you talk about moments. Like,
Uh-huh.
when did you recognize the deep, like, it feels like you became a deep thinker.
Hmm.
Like you were more than just capturing a moment. You were thinking about what you do. Like, was there a moment in your life or in your photographic life that all of a sudden
Oh,
that window opened?
oh my gosh. You're really asking a big question here because, okay, in the beginning, um,
And wait, I don't want you to answer if it's uncomfortable. I'm
no,
just
it's not uncomfortable. I tell it in my TEDx talk.
okay.
I've done two TEDx talks, but the beginning of one of them is, we're in the scene, we're in our house, our house is being shot at, okay? And my father, who was the police chief, says, hit the deck, runs outside to shoot back, and I go in another room, grab a pair of binoculars, and I want to be an eyewitness. I want to be able to. This is a true story. I don't
That's a
tell
true
that
story.
so many stories. But anyway, yeah. So that was like a catalyst for me to like try to embed myself in people's lives, to tell these stories, to show a side of life that other people may have never seen before. And it's all about that whole like, spectrum. I had lunch once with a guy who conducted an orchestra, and he said, "We can't listen to the music. We can't listen to the music." And I said, why not? Why not? Because I just can't. I'm always thinking about the symphony and that kind of music. And I thought, well, that's what I'm doing. I'm seeing things everywhere. I'm like always seeing things. I'm driving in my car. I'm like, oh, there's a picture. Oh, that's a pic. You know what I mean? So it's like it's like my DNA. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'd say that it's kind of like journalism combined, though. It's not just about art photography. I mean, I try to utilize the form of art photography to educate people on issues and important topics.
And how do you marry the photographer to the editor?
Oh, how do I marry
Yeah, yourself.
yeah. Well, I'm very hard on myself because but I was very fortunate to be an editor for some great photojournalists like Paul
Yeah.
Bronstein, and, like just great photographers. So, that helped me too. And when I was a photo editor in between these little jaunts as photographer, I used to have to look at AP and look at Reuters and look at all these great pictures being, so that also had like pictures by John Moore and like just really great photographers. So that helped me also formulate my way of seeing the world.
Okay.
Um, so now here's a really another fear one. This was way down underneath, in the sewers of Romania. And, we're just standing above, and all there is a round circle. And they're like, okay, we're going to go down underneath now. And I'm like, oh my God, to what? What are we going to, right? Climb down. And this is the scene down there. Okay, this is one of the this is where they're living, where Ceausescu had let out all these orphans, and they had never found anywhere to live, and these were all homeless for living, and it was way down beneath. So this was the scene. It was just so incredible with this like meal on a table, like it's incredible.
And you can remember that moment now,
Oh
Renee?
yes.
Like yesterday, huh?
Oh yeah. Because I was like scared to death to go down that ladder. There's
Oh,
another
yeah.
picture of like the ladder and stuff. I mean, so, some of these pictures are just like one photo out of like several.
Yeah.
And they're just these moments. This is in Peru. I have to look every once in a while because I get my countries mixed up a little bit because I'm getting old. But anyway, yeah, this is Peru, and these are three little children, and their mother sings on buses to make money for them and begs on the street, and they're just waiting for her to come home.
Mhm.
So this was on the Dollar a Day project.
Right. Yeah, so tell
Another
us
one on
about
the
that.
Dollar a Day project. This one, and I remember, of course, I remember I was squatting in the over to the right here for like ever. Like my legs, I thought they were gonna just fall off me because I was waiting for something to fill the middle of the frame because I saw these three different images within this image, but I was like, I need something more. I need something more. I need something more. So this is these are women that go and carry these heavy things on their heads at market and maybe make $1 a day.
Right.
So back to my beginning days because this is just great. I like to go beyond street photography because really all of my work is beyond just making images that I see, but having that conversation with people. And that has led me to get pictures that go more inside. So instead of just photographing this mine on the streets of New York, which was part of a workshop, the first workshop that I ever took, and my mentor was J. Ross Bauman, who shot the Pulitzer in Rhodesia. And I credit him for my ability to embed myself in families and to do the stories that I do. So here I am, this street mom's going back and forth. I'm thinking, this would be a good story, you know? And I'm shooting for the first time slides. I'm shooting black and white. So this was like, so I get back with my pictures to Jay Ross and he looks at them and he starts flipping them on the ground. He's like, no good, no good. What I want you to do is go on this train and go to this stop and go to this place. And I want you to get an umbrella and I want you to bounce it backwards and I want you to do this. And I'm just like, okay, okay. So I go into exactly what he says. And these are just more on the street. But then I wind up going back to their home. And I'm doing what he's telling me to do. And I'm making these moments of them in their little place on Broadway, and I'm getting closer and I'm getting more intimate. And he taught me all of this to the fact where here they are. His wife is a struggling ballerina. He's sitting there. His face is, no, we're seeing him for who he is. And again, I wind up years later doing this $1 a day project, but actually this was a $1 a day story. And this story, this was part of the Focus 81, 82 workshops in New York. I don't know if you remember those, Frank, but
Yep.
they were with Eddie Adams and Harry Benson and
Right.
Alex Webb and like I got J. Ross Bauman, but all these great Cornell Kappa, all these greats. I'd seen this ad in a magazine while I was at the Peoria Journal Star, and I'm like, I gotta go do this workshop. So they gave out 5 awards for the workshop, and I got 2.
There you go.
The other one was on a but I don't have it. I don't have I had to dig this one up. But I mean, the point of the matter is that I learned a lot just at the workshop. So
I
if
have
any
to,
young people here, these workshops really are worth taking.
Renee, I have to say, listening to you, you sound like the kid who found the cookie jar. Like, like so excited, 40 years later, like you shot these things yesterday. that enthusiasm is like a drug. It really is. It's wonderful to hear your voice.
Thank you.
It really
you.
is. My God.
So we'll get to a little more serious stuff.
Okay.
This was a story that I did for the Seattle PI. It was about this mom who committed suicide from severe postpartum depression, leaving behind her husband Thomas and baby Alexander.
Mm.
And again, these intimate moments of them napping together. And now he owns a restaurant, and he jokes about how he's got to give his child a gourmet breakfast now by himself. The neighbors have all come to help him after this happens.
Really.
He's
And
using a
where is that,
blow
Renee?
dry. He's using Seattle. He's using a blow dryer to dry his kid after the bath. And then, little things of reminders of his wife and the love that she had. And his giving back to the community by putting up this sign. And then he calls me one morning and he says, I'm going to go jogging in the park today. And I'm thinking, oh my God, jogging in the park. I was not like really athletic at the time. And I'm thinking, oh, do I really want to go? And I'm like, well, how far are you going to jog? What are you going to... Anyway, thank God I said yes, because he came to this spot and that's where he had laid her ashes. But he hadn't told me that he was going to do that. He just said, you want to go for a jog with me today? And again, the scene unfolds of him and this moment, and the baby's asleep. And then, the baby's learning to do his whole bottle, and he's all stressed out. And there's a picture of them as a family right there. And then back at the restaurant, he's having to juggle his, life with the baby. And he winds up having to close the restaurant because he just can't handle the whole thing. And there's a little sign like, can you give to help my son? And the first birthday together. Oh, there's my cat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm thinking, oh my God, this is going to be a sad ending. Like, what's the ending to this? I mean, it's just going on and I'm not. So here's the ending. The ending is, I didn't know, but I want to read this because it's really good. So here they are, they're blowing bubbles and they're having this joyful moment. And although he was devastated by her death, I found inspiration in the relationship he forged with his son. Quoting from him, I've lost the love of my life, my soulmate, and my friend. And I look forward to my son, Alexander, for inspiration now, he said. I'm so grateful I have him.
Mm.
So it's just...
Any idea how they are now, Renee?
Well, wow, they're grown up now, and
Yeah.
He's moved back to Greece. Yeah. And he did start up another restaurant and was very successful in Seattle too.
Mm.
And so, and back now we're at the Sacramento Bee, and I had worked on a big, long project, but we were not even showing that. But we're going to get to this one, which is Women at War, because 2 years after the U.S. invasion of Iraq, America's military machine depended on women as never before. Yet it had failed to address the issues presented by a truly integrated two-gender force. And so at first we would go out to these rural communities where these girls were like being recruited. And these were some of the scenes of the recruitment. And she wound up joining, by the way. And the reason she told me she joined was because she's Indian, and she didn't want to be in a forced marriage.
Uh-huh.
And here's recruits being inspected for to see if they have any tattoos, if they have any birthmarks, if they have anything, piercings, in case they're shot so that they can be identified.
Boy, you could tell a whole story just by their legs.
Oh, I know.
And
It's
feet.
just
That's
the whole thing,
really amazing.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't even need their faces. Jeez.
And then obviously you can see this isn't set up for women. And it took two of them to put this gun together. And they basically said they didn't even have the strength to do it themselves.
Really.
And I love the precarious way she's carrying the gun, right? I mean, come on. She's on her way to Afghanistan. And here's another one. So I said to her, she said, I wouldn't hesitate to use my weapon. Do you want to come home alive or in a casket? And just some
So,
scene.
Renee, do you, at this point in your life, are you seeing where your career is going now? That you're going into more the hardcore photojournalism? I mean, like, are you recognizing that?
Oh, no, no. I've always, like, even in the very beginning, even really in Peoria, I did a story, and I'm not going to show it, but it was a really intense story that I did there. But that's always been in the back of my head. Ever since I
Mm.
took that workshop with J. Ross Bauman, it's
That
all
was it.
about embedding and telling these, like, really deep issue stories, like Life magazine, which was another big influence, like looking through
Right.
Life magazine. Um, and then getting on these bases was not easy. I had to sneak in with the National Guard, and at one point when I got into the one in Tacoma, the Seattle papers were asking me, "Well, how did you get in there? We can never even get on that base." And so, but look at the fingernails are all painted.
Mm.
It's and nobody was really picturing these women on the front lines.
Right.
you know and this is another good one. Like, here's a woman, and through these doors, America's pride. But what she would say is, you don't know. So here's basically, she says she was offered money for sex by a fellow soldier during the first stint in Iraq. She refused, but never reported it. If you do something to discredit your company, it's on your ass, she said. Still, the sexually charged atmosphere on the front lines leave many women feeling like second-class soldiers. She says self-preservation is one reason women are reluctant to harassment complaints against fellow soldiers in the war zone. You don't know if that person will save your life out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then this is the early morning, very, very early morning, a soldier leaving for Iraq, and she's wearing a fake wedding ring to ward off harassment.
Mm.
And this is the same one. This is her barracks compared to you can see that the women actually were a little messier than the men. And they hear that, yeah, I mean, these are just how hard it was on the women leaving their children. And, struggling and stress, and, having to deal with, divorce and custody battles over the kids and all kinds of other issues that were involved. And then this woman was a decorated soldier, and suffered from PTSD, and had lost her house. And I mean, these moments that I mean, like, I couldn't have planted the picture better. I mean, it's just, but this is
Yeah.
when you spend a lot of time with people, these things unfold, and I see this picture there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what an image. And I'd been sent to DC because the woman didn't want to go on record, and we wanted to get a photograph of her from sexual harassment. And then the next thing you know, I'm looking in the mirror and I see this reflection, and there she is, you know.
Mm.
And then this is the last one of that series, and it's like the whole generation, and she would have been the next generation, and she died. And now we get to a mother's journey. And Mary Calvert, do you know Mary F. Calvert? She actually
Yeah.
took this picture when it was showing at the museum for me.
Yeah.
So this is a story where billions of dollars are given to cancer research, but very little to help families financially and emotionally with childhood cancer. And it's also a love story. It's this incredible love story between this mother and her dying son. And when I first approached Cindy French, I had no idea what the cancer was or anything about it. Everything just sort of unfolded as the year went on, and this was a year-long project. But this image is inside UC Davis Medical Center. Derek was always in fear of his procedures, and she's racing up and down. She's taking off her flip-flops. She's throwing him in the side. She's racing him up and down to distract him from a treatment. And at the time, I didn't even notice that her pager was going off. I didn't notice that until years later when I was walking past the picture in my house and I saw that pager and I was like, wait a minute.
The
And I
light.
went back to the negative and I thought, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. So this picture, I was so consumed with the moment, the joy, the action, everything. I never saw that this was really one of the most critical moments of she's supposed to be in surgery right now.
And you don't even see her other foot. She must be really
Nope,
running.
she's up in the air. Yep, she's running, she's racing him. And I was so glad I had two cameras and the lens on each one that time too, because lifting it up to do that. This is with the 200, and zoom, 80 to 200, and I was just so worried that it was going to be out of focus. I was like, oh my god. But Cindy was amazing, and she, everything for her son. She would go to the dollar store. She would buy all these things, and this is outside the hospital, and they're, silly string, and she meticulously picked it all up off the ground. And then here's a scene where she had actually had a car wash to try to raise money for her son because she had to give up her nail salon business because she was having to be around him 24/7. And so here she is, they're counting money, and she says, maybe we can use this money to buy PlayStation 2. And he says, no, Mom, I think we got to pay the rent. So he's realizing, Mom, this is really serious. To where they're fighting over, this reminds me of a Donna Ferrata picture, by the way, who I adore and is a good friend. But this whole scene where they're all fighting about money and funeral costs and everything, and everybody's pointing at each other. Like a family should never be in a situation like this.
That's the same boy, huh? Wow.
Yeah, it's the same boy.
Wow.
And this is one of her favorite pictures. It's a picture where she had been told by hospice that she needed to call in hospice, and she knows this. And he knew she was upset, so he knocked on the door and came in. And now he's trying to comfort her. And then, like minutes later, they're outside, and she's decided, I'm going to let him drive my car because he's not going to have an opportunity to drive. And I'm standing out there thinking, should I jump in the car or not? I need to get this picture, but do I also, so. And these are only maybe 10 pictures. The 20 pictures won the Pulitzer. This went on to win the World Understanding Award, which was 40 images. And here it is. She's gone full circle. And
what publication is that for, Renee?
This was for the Sacramento Bee, where I work right now.
Still for the Bee.
Yeah, this was for the Sacramento Bee, but this went everywhere. This ran in 11 pages in Paris Match. It went, through Zuma, actually. It literally went everywhere. I'll show. It's the Days Japan International magazine. A single photograph has the power to change the course of a nation, and this was one of them that they did. It's been all over the world, in exhibitions as part of the Pulitzer show. Never expected it to be like, I don't know how many stories high in Korea. Being used as the picture for the Pulitzer exhibits. And I wouldn't even have known this, but I just had a friend like, hey, you're in Korea, could you do a snapshot for me? I wouldn't have known. So everybody asks, how is Cindy now? And Cindy writes all the time on Facebook about how grateful she is to have these images, how she just couldn't even imagine not having them. She's always posting pictures from my series that I gave her. And this was a few months ago, but now she's got a different one. She's got the one of them on the bed. So, she is just an amazing woman. She really is. And an incredibly devoted mom like I've never seen.
And Renee, do you own those photographs, or the B owns the photographs, but you could use them in any way you want?
Well, the B owns the photograph, but they've let me do the exhibitions, and they allow me to use them for, especially for educational purposes. Yeah. And yeah, that's what one of the assets to having my living on $1 a day book is, because I have the copyright of every picture in that book.
Right.
So anyway, I'm going to breeze through some stuff really quickly because we're going to run out of time otherwise.
You have all the time you need, Renee.
So this is the aftermath of the campfire. I'd never been to, I never wanted to shoot the like flames or anything, but I agreed to go to the aftermath to show this was the deadliest, most destructive wildfire in California's history in 2018, caused 85 civilian fatalities and injured 12 civilians and 5 firefighters. And, you know, so we got to drive into the zone, and no one else, I mean, only emergency vehicles and media are allowed. So no, people were like desperate. Is my house there? Is anything there? And this was the scene, like when we first arrived, this car had like somehow survived. But here's a guy being arrested for trespassing to try to go back to see if his belongings were there. And I'm driving down the road. I'm like, oh my God, I have to shoot this. This is like, this poor guy's already traumatized enough. Now they're going to put him in handcuffs because he's trying to get back to see if his house is there.
Mm.
You know, and then they brought in the dogs to sniff, to look for the bodies. And then they had opened the place in the Red Cross, so I had to talk my way into that because no media was allowed inside. I had shown pictures where I'd gotten in for Katrina. The Red Cross had let me in to cover Katrina when at the Houston Astrodome, and I'd shown this woman those pictures, and I said, "Look, this is what I'm looking to do. Can you please, make it happen?" And basically, she did. But
I don't think it's the Astrodome. The Astrodome is in Houston.
Yes, the Houston Astrodome. I covered Katrina. I'm not going to show any of those pictures, but when I covered the aftermath in the Houston Astrodome. Nobody was getting in there either. I walked around it twice and found a weak area and got in. Yeah.
Too much.
But anyway, this is just some scenes inside. I got the neurovirus. Oh my God, the worst virus on earth. Don't ever want to get that. Just terrible. But from these pictures, like this father and his little daughter, they had no money to even get back to where their family was. And once they saw these pictures, someone donated money to rent them a car so that they could drive back, which was nice. And a lot other pictures that I've taken, there's been a really incredible response. And that's what is nice about working for a newspaper, is your community can help people in some situations. But this picture was one of the top in Time magazine, and it represented the fire because so many elderly died in this fire. So, when I came on this ominous scene with this walker, all I kept thinking is, oh my gosh, did this guy make it? And it just evokes a lot of questions. And pictures that evoke questions,
right,
I think are powerful.
Yeah. And Renee, when you're taking a shot like that, you recognize at that moment this is power.
Oh yeah, this one I was just yeah. And then I mean, just these ominous scenes in this place where there's, what did they say? How many? 19,000 buildings. Most of them, homes were destroyed.
Yeah, Robert Ripps wrote, I think, what other people are thinking, that Walker shot reminds us of the Bird shot.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. So
19,000.
now we're on to traveling around the world. So this is in between the Pulitzer, and then after this I have a Pulitzer finalist. You know the difference, right? When you win a Pulitzer, they name 2 finalists. And so you're in the ring. There's always 3, and they always award the winner and the 2 finalists. But many people, because they were entered, call themselves finalists, and those are not finalists. People build careers on this, and it's not. Yeah,
that's a whole other story.
It's
Renee.
crazy. But anyway, This is Living on $1 a Day, the lives and faces of the world's poor, where the purpose was to put out a book in a year earlier than the United Nations Millennium Goals, which were in 2015. And those goals were to eliminate poverty. And so this book, which was edited and designed and picture edited by David Griffin, a former director of photography from National Geographic, which I'm very grateful that he took this project on to do that, and then was done in collaboration with a professor of law in San Francisco who wrote the text for the book, but did not travel with me he traveled to me to India, and that was all. So it covered a vast area. We went to Africa, South America, Eastern Europe. Let's see.
And Renee, what came first, Renee? The idea or the images, and then this should go into a book? I mean, how did that work?
No, this was an invitation to work on a book, and I had to apply.
Okay.
And that's a whole nother story. I didn't think I was going to get it, but I did. But yeah, I really wanted to do this. And then I had to take a leave of absence from my job. And that was not easy either, because it was 2009, 2010. We were getting hit with the economic, newspapers were downsizing. They were telling me, you're too valuable, we can't let you go. So it was really very difficult to get the time that I needed. I wound up using some vacation time and taking a leave to work on this project. So let's see, Eastern Europe, Africa, Bolivia, Romania, Cambodia, Bangladesh. I went to Ghana and Liberia.
And Renee, how do you work with what you know you're going to see and witness and document, the mental piece of that?
Yeah, so that's interesting, because I really had to think about whether I wanted to do this story.
Right.
But I did weigh the mental, emotional toll.
And how do you navigate that?
Well, I navigate it because the stories are so important, and the pictures. If you look at these pictures, I try to make them in such a dignified manner that preserves the dignity of the people, and again, these are all moments, of life, and it's just walking the streets where I got these stories. I mean, so I just sort of I put myself in other people's shoes. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
It's like I have this thing my mother taught me very young at age, like do unto others as you would like others to do unto you. And basically, whenever I'm taking an image, I'm thinking, I live in this world and you live in that world, and how can I translate your world to this world? And that's, and even though I'm maybe crying through my lens, I'm working so hard to do that translation.
Right.
And so that's sort of how I do it. And so this also has, if anybody's interested, another component. It's got a documentary film. They sent a videographer along to photograph me in the making of the book, and I narrate part of that. And it shows some of the stories. And it's a traveling exhibition. It's gone to a lot of different places here and in Europe. As part of bigger exhibitions and part of its own, it's 60 images, and the quality is really incredible. And each one of them tells different stories. So you'll see these two are stacked up, but those are one child's story. So it's very educational too. Incredibly educational exhibition. And it started with me in Mali, Africa, working on another story in 2003 for the Sacramento Bee, actually, where I was doing this story and I saw this little boy, and he was working alongside his mother to burn wood to make coal. And while he was doing that, I went back to his encampment, and he's eating a few grains of rice. And while he's eating the grains of rice, the village chief is saying, "Those that don't work don't eat." And I'm thinking, oh my God, are you kidding me? That child wouldn't have been able to have anything to eat if he hadn't been working alongside his mother. And so that stuck with me. So when this book project came up, I really wanted to work on these issues of child labor and, women being the main workforce and rights, human rights.
Mm.
And I never want to forget to thank my fixers.
Right. There you
The
go.
guys that keep you safe, because when you're in certain parts of Africa or other places in the world, even Peru is not very, because I'm going into the poorest neighborhoods. And I need security. I need a driver. I need a translator. I've got to have a whole team.
And I mean, so you do a project like that, and how do you deal with your own stress after the fact, right? Like, people who document war, they come out and, now they're, walking along Madison Avenue. Like, how do you go back to Seattle? How do you go back to, wherever you go after you were just there?
Well, it's it's hard. It's a big process because you go there, you make the photographs, you come back, now you're editing the pictures, but you kind of save the emotion for the editing process and you try to because you're on a timeline and you
Yeah, yeah.
need to work really, you need to like get up at 6 in the morning, walk the streets. You're not going to sleep till midnight. Paula Bronstein said, "You're doing this without a bottle of wine. Go out and get a bottle of wine, honey." Yeah. And she's right. She was right. I started to have a beer at night while I'm editing, have a glass of wine, because it really is, very, very
Yeah,
it's stressful, emotional, but you have to stay focused because you want to tell these stories.
right.
And, you know,
So you do recognize it, and you do something to keep yourself, settled.
Yes, yes. And you're also working with a team, so you're
Right.
you're able to bounce things off the team and you know, and you discover things as you go and each country's different and you're
Yeah.
learning a lot about the culture and you're doing a lot of research before you leave, a tremendous amount of research.
Right.
So, um so this is Bolivia. We're like 14,000 feet above sea level. I'd never been, that high up. Um, this is climate change. You can see the snow melt is barely any snow. So the city is in distress for water. And I see this little cup up into the right side. Do you see that building? Do you see over to the right there? And there's a little cup on the window. I see
Yep.
that cup on the window, and there's no people. And I'm like, I gotta wait. I gotta wait. I gotta wait for something to happen here. I thought my team was gonna kill me because they all want dinner. They want, they want to go. They're done, right?
And
And
Renee, are you explaining that to them?
yeah, oh yeah. Oh, yeah. They. I want to go forever. But you have to understand that they're not photojournalists.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
People that you're with. They want their breaks. So I started figuring that out and carrying chocolate and power bars for everybody. You got to,
A bribe is a bribe.
right? You got to bribe them. So anyway, this scene unveils and this little girl and this dog, and it was just great. And just these
Wow.
these these are all like again, no portraits, just these little moments of this little boy who's, herding was part of the living on $1 a day. What do people do for a living to
Mm.
and
Beautiful. Yeah.
agriculture and all of her land had gone brown from, not enough rain. And then just to the details. This is an 80-year-old woman still out there, and those are lima beans. And then this family that was working not for money, but in exchange for food. So this is a potato farming. And when I first got to the potato farmers, they didn't want any photos. This is Peru, and they don't like being photographed. But it's very difficult to actually photograph because the culture is they don't want to be photographed. But I think what they saw was I'm weighted down with all these cameras. I've got a guy with a who's like sort of video camera guy, and he's like filming me, but they see me as a major worker and a woman, and I think that's
Mm.
why they finally said okay. And this is the picture that comes out of this situation.
Wow.
So right at the end of the day, they decide they're going to dance and just this incredible moment of these two older women.
Magical.
And then I also went and did some up and I'm going to start moving faster, some of the brothels in Bangladesh. And that's one of the madams coming through. And again, I had a really great fixer, and he really got me the access for this. And it was a guy, which is amazing. And this is the madam, and above her, you can see her picture when she was younger. And then I'd never seen this yellow eyes from hepatitis for this girl. And then she's covering up her scar, her black eye. Again, just turned, and there was this moment of this mother, and they say that unfortunately the cycle is very hard to break. If you're already in a brothel and you have children, then the children sometimes. And this one is actually wearing blue contact lenses to entice people. If you can see that, the color, everything was just incredible. So back to the Ghana, where, like I said, those people that carry those, you saw that other picture, that was them resting, but this is them. It's always the women are like the rural workforce of the poor. They're the ones that are always carrying everything, and the men are carrying the machetes and overseeing everything. I'll just show a few pictures from this, and there's that same picture. So these pictures ran, this was 2 years ago in Zurich, and they're part of this big, huge show about the sustainable goals. Pretty well lifestyle.
Wait. What's with the foot?
Oh, I thank you for asking. I broke my foot the day before, and I had to do a talk to the UN. I broke my foot the day before the flight. Yeah. But I broke my foot the day before the flight, but I had cushioned in a vacation a few days before this. So I rested for 3 days and then got on that flight and went. Yeah. And this is a terrific guy that I met, who has been a real good champion of my work in Austria. Lois Lammenhuber. Low is how it's pronounced, not Lois, but so yeah. So
And there's your husband on the left, right?
that's my husband on the left. Yeah, boy, you're good, Frank. And then this is a picture in the United States on the left too. So I've added and been covering homelessness issues also for the last, for 23 years here in California, but really, really, really focused on it the last few years. So I'm going to go through some of these really quickly. These are just pictures in India.
You know what always amazes me about this world here is that there's all these little kids, right? Infants, right? And it's always hard to imagine how human beings still need to make love, right? There's nothing romantic about it, right? Conceiving a child in this environment.
No.
But we need the touch. We need all of that. It's so interesting to me how the human condition just I need to make love. It's really intriguing.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. That is a really interesting
There's
point.
nothing romantic. No one goes for a coffee later or a beer or a cigarette or wine before a nice dinner. It's amazing to me.
Totally. So just a few pictures in India, way up near where the Dalai Lama lives, which I did stay on his estate while I did this, and he did write the forward to our book.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, just these little moments of like protection of one brother protecting the little, his hand on, and the little feet are touching each other, and they're looking for some tea. To like a solar powered shower, which just sparks so much joy. And then this picture was like one of the most harrowing because this child was being starved to death on purpose so that her mother could beg with her on the streets so that she could solicit funds to actually feed her other children.
Wow.
And when I saw this, and I could still hear this child screaming. And so that's the child wiping the smoke, and this is the other child who she's going to be feeding. And this is a practice that's happened all over the world, and I saw it in Cambodia, I saw it here. But as a result of this child was taken away. And we got some medical help, and is now living with Buddhist monks there. And this is her now.
Wow. Wow. Is that a criminal offense, Renee?
No, not
No.
that I'm aware of. It
No.
happens in Cambodia. I'm going to step out and move this real quick. It happens all over the world. I mean, it's something that, we need to like fix and get rid of, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's another story that I need to delve deeper into. But no, this child could be the face of it, to tell you the truth. I mean, yeah, no, this is a practice that needs to be eliminated. It's definitely a human right practice. So another thing, like on the herding, I went out with these little boys. They call them little cowboys, and they herded cows in the jungle in Ghana. And so I had to run with them in the jungle. I had no idea where I was running, whether I would make my way back to wherever we started, because all I had were these 4 little children, and I had no idea at all. And while we're out in the middle of nowhere, there's other boys have slingshots in case those cows go on their land, to protect their land. And so here I am, and I have to trust these little children to like get me from wherever. They've got bare feet. I did have some rubber boots on. And here they are. It started to rain, and they went into this shelter so they could still keep an eye on those cows.
That's their job.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And this is their father. He's blind. He was blinded by a snake bite. Several other children were blinded by snake bites. I find out after I come back and interview them, and after I had run in the jungle with them. And several of those children had beaten snakes to death. So again, you can see me. Here I am. I'm in Ghana again. I'm in an e-waste dump site, very dangerous place. One of my security people wouldn't even get out of the car. He said he wasn't even going to be there. Well, one did. So this overall scene of our electronics. Now, we never think about like, where do they go? Where do these computers and all these things go? Well, they go and they get dumped in other countries where children are working to sell the little metals to survive. Breathing in this
Go
air.
back one, Renee. Go back one. That's an incredible photo.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is the money shot. This is what they're looking for. So you see that along the path, these remnants of. So his eyelashes are singed from the fire.
Right, you said.
And they're living in these little huts. And so that's Aisha. And so this is Fatty. Fatty's pretty well known now. Fatty was 8 years old. She was tears streaming down the face from the effects of malaria and the headache that she had. And she's got this bucket on her head with a few metals that she's hoping to sell so that they can eat. And I wound up following her back home and doing a much longer story on her. And then revisiting her 4 or 5 years later, thinking, I wonder if she'll recognize me. And she did. And this is a selfie with my iPhone the minute she saw me, which was amazing. And so now she was in school and she's doing really well, and that's the other little girl that was on the bucket.
It's
And
great that
this
you
was
have so
on
many.
CBS Sunday Morning, actually. They featured me on a big piece on the living on $1 a day. And that's her. I mean,
Oh my God. It's so wonderful that you go back and you see these kids, that there are some success stories out of this stuff.
oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish that that was for everyone that I
Yeah.
photographed, right? So these are just some pictures of that. And then, and saying here, this is another little girl, and because of the pictures of me stopping and everything, she was the videographer helped to get them a place and get them a better life. But I saw her and everybody's just walking past her, and I'm thinking, these people are like invisible. How can they be invisible,
Is that
So
her mom behind her?
that's her mom to the right, yes, and she suffers from a disability, and that's her little brother too, and he's got some medical issues as well.
But they're all, I mean, the women are dressed so beautifully. They must be a little bit
Incredible.
wealthy.
Incredible. Wait till you see. Well, this is I mean, that's the mom in the background, and here she is begging,
Wow.
making. But again, this mom, remember the cancer mom who cleaned up all the silly
Yeah.
strain? This mom is cleaning up this, they're staying outside of a mosque because that's where they feel safe, But again, the children are leaving crumbs and she's cleaning it up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, so I leave and I'm like, well, let's go back at night. I want to see where they're sleeping. And then again, like any other mother, she's trying to make, even though she's blind, she wants her to look good. She wants her to be as normal as possible.
Beautiful.
And then this is where they're sleeping. They're sleeping literally on the ground in 100, I don't even know, 20 degrees, it seemed like to me. She's fanning them at night to try to keep them cool. And that's when the videographer, like, he lost it, and he literally he bought them, first of all, some chaise lounges so that they could sleep on something. And then later he came back to the United States and he got some fundraising to help them so that the mother could have like this business selling things at market and to try to take care of them. But when you've never been to a country like this, and this is the scene, it's really hard to even believe. It's very hard to even
Yeah.
translate because it's
Yeah.
just so debilitatingly hot, and that this is all they have. But again, extraordinary.
Yeah.
Here, these
Unbelievable.
children who have no toys, have no anything, are sparking joy and singing me a song. I mean, it's really extraordinary when you think about it.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is.
The human spirit is
The
something else.
human spirit is incredible. And then this guy's great too. This is in Peru. His name is Miguel. He was walking down his son died young, very young, 6 years old. He says, looking at all these homeless people, he says, why couldn't you have taken one of those kids? Why did you take mine? And then he felt bad. And he took home 2 children. Then he took home more children. Now he has an orphanage of over 800 children. And he knows them all
Wow.
by name. It's like unbelievable. And here he is. It's like really another incredible, incredible story.
Wow.
These children are just, I've been to other orphanages, like the one I went in Liberia was like the saddest place on earth. This is like the most joyous orphanage I've ever seen. Joyful, sorry.
Wow.
They're playing sports. But then like this beautiful moment at the end of the day where he's just exhausted and he, all these little dirty stuffed animals around him. Just an incredible human. So we'll go very quickly through this one. This is the grandfather's sorrow and love. 65-year-old grandfather's daughter is killed by her husband, we find out later, but at the time of the pictures, we don't know if it was him or not. He's arrested. The children, his father is fighting for the custody of the children with her.
Mm.
This is my first moment meeting him. He has 65. He had just retired. His wife had the year before died of cancer, and he was just starting to golf. He had given up. He was an impressionist painter, incredible painter, and he had given up the painting because he was going to enjoy life. And now he's got these 3 tiny children. That's his easel. And he's trying to figure out how he's going to care for these 3 tiny children, pick back up his paintbrush. And there's just these beautiful little moments of him, kissing the daughter and coming when he wins the custody of them in a legal battle, just like, and the one child helping the other child learn to walk. And, and there's a lot more pictures and a lot more I can say, but you get the drift of, somebody's life just changes in an instant.
Yeah.
And then here's the husband who murdered her. First day of trial, he bursts out. 48 hours comes to do the story because he had also it was a double murder possibly because his other wife had died mysteriously as well. So 48 hours comes, and that this is before the verdict, and instead of him going out with 48 hours, he went to lunch with me, and this is the scene of us at lunch. He sits down in this spot with this picture on the wall, which I just couldn't even believe, and it was like old time. What are the chances that there's a lot of luck, I think, in this too, that this moment happens of him. And then back in the courtroom, and that's that. So this is my husband's favorite picture that I've ever taken practically. It's a story about Luther and Claire has ALS, and it's this incredible story, but I'm just showing this one photograph of how he cared for her. And it was during the foreclosure crisis, and she wanted to die in their home, and the bank had called and was trying to evict them. And because we did this story, they got to stay in the home. And also, just from the photographs alone, not the written story, because they got picked up and run in other places, he wound up getting $20,000 to help.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think we're almost out of time, but I could go on and on and on, but I'm going to quickly run past all the Afghan refugee stuff, which is another incredible story because actually, I'm going to go back to show this one photograph. So Afghan SIV comes to the United States thinking he's going to come to the American dream, right? And instead they are put in these horrible, terrible apartments. They are bug-ridden and dangerous, crime-ridden, and he gets shot in the eye, blinded. And here he is, just after he's been told that he's not going to regain any sight in his eyes, but he's looking into an American flag phone.
Can't make that up either.
No, you can't. And so I followed and I've done a series of stories on this. This ran as an exhibition at Visa Polimage in Perpignan, France.
Yeah.
So, and as a result, I do other stories. This is another story that I've done on that thing. But I just wanted to quickly touch on the homeless crisis in California because this is what I've been doing for the last several years. And this is a shelter that shut down. She's bathing herself from the water hydrant. I'm just going to show some pictures of the devastating impact, mostly on women and seniors, and the survival, having to protect themselves and their families. This family got housing because of our photographs. I'm just going to touch a little bit and show some of these images. They call these sweeps, where they come in and they literally come in with a bulldozer. They sweep away all of their things, throw them out. They tow away their cars and they crush them and they leave them on the street with nothing. And the waiting list to get into any kind of housing is thousands of people.
Mm.
So this was a quadriplegic that was living in one of these encampments that they couldn't find housing, but because I did a story for over a year relentlessly, they got her housed.
It's interesting, like watching these and seeing, third world countries, how much
Well,
better are we?
here's the thing, the mirroring, Frank, of like what I covered there. And then when I was, I remember the first time I came back from Africa in 2003, and I thought, well, at least we have safety nets in the United States. Well, they're gone.
Yeah.
They seriously are gone. And this is what we have. This is what I see, you know,
Mm.
these encampments. But I do want to read this because Donna Ferrata wrote this, and I like this. And this was at 5 in the morning during one of these sweeps.
Everybody
She
hold on.
she
If
she
if Donna
writes,
wrote it.
uh-huh.
Mhm.
She says, it matters to see that you are there with the disenfranchised people on the street, you and your camera on the street documenting the cruelty of living in a world that most people cannot afford. At 5:30 a.m., when most Sacramento folks are comfortably sleeping in nice warm beds, you are trudging with the disowned, disregarded, displaced people who literally have nowhere to go. Renee, bless you among photographers for always being there to show the reality of what a cruel, hopeless situation the land of freedom has become. I'm so sad for everyone being swept out of consciousness. Not a shot fired, and yet these people are the walking dead. That's what she wrote as a comment on my
Yeah.
post.
My God. Yeah. Yeah. That's Donna. Yeah. The work is incredible.
And so here they are. Here they are, the police coming in and they called it a crime scene, tried to arrest me.
Yeah.
And it was not a crime scene.
Yeah.
So this is America.
Mm.
And now this is what I just did 2 weeks ago and last week. So these are just more following these displaced. This was just last week. And this is the one I'm just going to end on because just this scene of now they've been displaced because they cut a program and they are sleeping in their cars. And so this young boy is now throwing a blanket on his mother, and they're both going to squish in there together to sleep.
Crazy.
So there's my last quote. If we cannot connect, cannot imagine, cannot see, we can never hope to change.
There you go. Wow. Thank you so much, Renee.
And that's about 2/3 of my work. There's a whole nother third.
And where can we get your book, Renee? Put that in
Oh,
the
Living at $1 a Day is a 240 something page book.
Wow.
It is on Amazon, but I'll tell you, it's sold out quickly, and you can only get second generations of it now, but it's worth it, I think. And then you can watch the film also on Amazon and other places of the making of it. And also there's a textbook out that's in 9 countries about poverty, and I'm featured along with Sheryl Sandberg, Bono, a whole bunch of people on these issues that have to do with in conjunction with TED Talks and National Geographic.
Right. Okay. Great. Great. So you can stop sharing. If anyone has any questions, comments, you'll both see a lot of nice things in the chat room.
Oh, wow.
Um, so Ron, what's next for you?
Um, I will probably keep shooting these guys, men and women who've gotten out of prison after life sentences. I'm in California twice a year photographing that. No exhibition yet. We're probably gonna put out a book eventually, just because I'm out of my mind.
Okay.
And I think their stories are so touching. What they've made of themselves and how they're re-entering society is incredible and much stronger than my photos. But you hear a lot of their stories and read them on the website.
Mhm.
Um,
You know,
and that's sorry.
yeah. No, no, it's interesting with both of you. Like, you show us the stuff, and our nature is always to find something positive. When it can happen. I mean,
Yeah.
some of them don't end up positive, but it is
No.
nice that you guys, show the positive stories, that the goodness of other people, um, to help, when they can, or the opportunity arises and people do the right thing. And Renee, what's next for you?
I'm working on, well, I may try to maybe do a book on the homelessness issue in the United States, or maybe some kind of a retrospective or something. I'm just starting to really feel like I have a lot to go through, and it's hard when you're working in a daily
I know.
grind all the time, but I'm trying to take a bigger look and see where it's going. But I do have a really extensive volume of work, inside the United States that I haven't really done, any kind of book or exhibition.
So the job is to go through the archive.
Is to go through the archive, and yeah, and through all the stories, yeah, there's a story that I wanted to show, but I never got the time to put it together.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are a lot of stories, Frank.
There's a movement to make 30 hours in a day instead of 24.
And this job is not 9 to 5.
Yeah, my God.
I hate
My
to
God.
say it. But
It
yeah,
is.
no, but thank you for having me. I really enjoyed presenting and
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys should really read through the chat room. There's a lot of
I gotta
nice.
see how to do that. That'd be neat.
Yeah, go in the bottom, you'll see chat, and
I
you
haven't
just
seen
click on
chat.
that, from a lot of folks. And yeah, most people stayed. It's great seeing Amy and Robert Levy tonight. Haven't seen them in a while. Um, and do you feel, Ron, that you make a difference? Is that the goal too?
I guess that's the goal. Yeah, I'm hoping that's the goal. I know the guys that I do tell their stories are really, really appreciative in the sense that I'm getting their stories out, especially their reentry stories, not just the stories of why they got into prison in the first place, but just they're trying, and it's really hard. Once you get out of prison, it's so impossible. You have to anytime you apply for a job, you have to say you're in prison. The state is still watching you. You're on parole, and but a lot of these guys have found a way. They've they're visiting family. A couple of them have moved back with family. It's really inspiring. They all have kids. That's what's really interesting. The reconnection between them and their kids.
Mm,
We photographed a bit of that. And there's just so much more I could have shown. There's a whole other side on itself.
yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
beautiful work, by the way. I did have an opportunity to do a little bit of recently in the maximum security prison where they're doing artwork
mm,
as part of a program that the governor has backed. And so I could have thrown a few pictures in from that, but it's very interesting to see
yeah.
like the inside of the prison. You might want to go but they've done all these murals, Superman, all these like interesting cartoon characters and stuff, and then outside on the buildings they've done all of this work too. So
Yeah. Which
yeah,
prison?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and my brain is
Ah,
like I can't even think of the name of it, but I'll send
that's
it to
okay.
you. I will
Send it
send
to
it
me.
to you.
Yeah,
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 I
yeah.
will.
No,
That
But it's like,
it's incredibly inspiring. The guys in the True Grit group up in northern Nevada, they were making all these. They're making dolls for kids that didn't have dolls. There's a place in Angola where they get all these used bicycles in and they repair them and give it out to kids. It's fantastic, fantastic what they're doing. Unfortunately, they're still in prison and most of them are not going to get out.
yeah,
Mm,
It's the unfortunate
yeah.
part. I
yeah, I
mean,
mean, Ronnie, in your world, are you ever like introduced to lawyers that, like do you get more entrenched in it? The actual process of like trying to get this guy out. Like
Um, I did. There was one lawyer that we had quoted in the book that he was an inmate. He was in for 25 years and he became a lawyer once he got out.
okay.
And he's working with the Innocence Project. He's working with a few other groups to try getting other people out. There are a lot of guys in there they've gone beyond their end of sentence and they stay in because they have nowhere to go.
How
And
do you do that? I mean, when the state says you're free now, how do you say I'm staying?
it's not up to them necessarily. And I'm in North Carolina and Alabama. If you have no place to settle, to a placement, if no family members will take you at that age, then
Right.
they'll keep you. You're allowed to stay. So the
Wow.
guys who are in there in North Carolina, especially, were guys who were in there for over 2 years, the end of sentence. It was insane. I mean, that's just the way the system is. And every state is different. There was okay in Angola, for instance, the warden there signed all these releases and paroles saying that there were 200 guys, 200 parole statements he signed, sent to the governor, and the governor refused to let anybody go.
Really?
So shit like that happens, and it's there's nothing you can do about it, and it's
Well, I
very
mean,
political.
I guess the similarity in what both of you do in that, technology being what it is, you're lost, right? If you've been in jail for 20 years or you don't have a nickel to your name,
Yeah.
living somewhere in Angola or Africa, where can you go? How can you get up to speed with the world,
Hmm.
Well, the
right?
nice thing in California, there's some really great halfway homes. So once you come out, you're positioned in these places and they get you up to speed. They help you get your
Okay.
papers, your driver's license, your social security. So there's one place in particular that we photographed at called Mass Liberation, which is incredible the work they're doing. And
Oh, so that's good.
yeah, in Torrance, Los Angeles.
I think
So
it's Salinas State Prison.
that's
So
where we're at. And,
That's where
yeah.
they had the art. Yeah.
Okay.
Salinas State Prison is where they're doing these big, I mean, these guys that are in for murders and everything, they're doing especially this one, he's doing these murals all on the outside as well. In fact, they went
Wow.
into lockdown while I was there.
really.
I'm not
And
kidding.
that's in
Yeah.
Vacaville, eh?
No, it's farther. No,
Or okay.
it's farther because it was good 4 hours, I think, at least.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. There's some places that just shock the hell out of me. I mean, Angola was one of those places running like a plantation. They don't let people go. There people are just dying in
mm,
prison. It was nuts.
it's sad.
Yeah, really sad. Really sad.
Yeah, Lisa has a nice comment. Important and inspiring works. What stands out is how photojournalism keeps the stories of the voiceless alive.
Mm, thank
Right?
you.
I mean
Right.
that's the work you guys are doing. It's interesting, Ron, to have you in the photojournalist space.
Yeah, it is
It
weird.
it 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 really is a
It's the storytelling behind the photo.
that's it. Yeah.
That's it. But I mean,
It's
I still shoot them. I don't say I photograph like a commercial photographer. When I look at the photographs compared to Renee's photos,
Yeah,
I can
it's
never do what Renee's doing. I don't have the patience and I don't have the wherewithal to do that. Really, Renee, your stuff is amazing.
Thank you.
And I look at it and it just kills me. I was almost in tears looking at some of the photos. But my stuff, I'm just I trying to show their dignity and their strength of character, even though they're stuck in a prison,
Yeah.
they're still human beings,
Yeah. No,
they're
you
just
did
like
that
us.
really well, I think.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, the portraits were just really, really incredible. Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks.
Well, um, well, I can't thank you both enough, and you have, a platform to come back and, show us new work and Renee, I mean, some of those stories, I'm sure you could go on for an hour just on any number of those stories. So,
Yeah.
I apologize for making those stories so quick, but that just lends itself to a standing invitation anytime you want to.
Yeah, no worries. As I go through my archives and stuff and I spark some stories, and I always am also looking for like stories that are, even though they're my community, they also have a national and international peg to them. And that's that Afghan story, which we really didn't talk much about, but that influence of that was a huge deal, and it did change the face of what they were going through. So, yeah. We'll just have
Great.
to
Yeah. Well, yeah.
reconnect.
Yes, no, it's so important what both of you are doing and making us aware and making us all think a little bit more. And like I said, by the middle of next week, both of these should be up on YouTube, and I'll let you guys know when they are, so you can have them for yourself as well. And thanks very much, and thanks everyone for coming in. And I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we
Thanks,
appreciate
Frank.
you doing this. This is great.
And like I said, whenever you're ready, please come back. Yeah, and like I say, take a quick look in the chat room there.
Yeah.
People have nice things to say
Yeah,
about you.
we're not muted.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Thanks,
thank you
thanks
so
for pushing,
much.
Frank.
Okay. Yeah,
That
I've been
was
trying
great.
for years. My God.
That's
So
good. It's good. Timing was right.
yeah. So thanks very much, everybody, and we'll try to cool. I think it's hot everywhere in the world these days. So you know, find a place that's where you can get some relief, and we'll be in touch. So thank you very much.